I studied physics, and at the end of the study I had the decision to go to industry or whatever, or to try something to do myself. During my studies I was playing music in some bands, and I started to repair amplifiers and wah-wah pedals and delay units and things like that. And so I had a little bit experience with electronics. And at the end of the study, I decided to try to start my own company. So this was the beginning.
And what was the first thing that you made in the modular kind of area?
The very first thing I made was a module for the Foreman synthesizer. At this time, the Foreman synthesizer was a very well-known do-it-yourself synthesizer, and I really remember the module. It was a voltage-controlled phaser, because I built the Foreman synthesizer, but I was missing a phaser module, and so I designed a voltage-controlled phaser. This was definitely my very first development.
And then what happened? People just said, yes, I must have this, and so you then...
Then I began to make more modules, and I started with something that this was called polyphonic modular system, PMS. But at this time, the problem was that all the digital machines came to the market, and nobody was interested in analog synthesizers. And so I decided to do my own thing, and so we made MIDI keyboards, MIDI master keyboards. This is where we became known here in Germany. In the beginning, the name Doepfer was known for MIDI master keyboards, not for analog equipment. And then several years we built it, MIDI keyboards and MIDI controllers, things like that. And I noticed that the prices for second-hand units like TB303, TR808 increased, and I said, hey man, you know how to build analog synthesizers, let's try it again. Because in the beginning it was very poor, the sales were extremely poor. And then I decided to do a standalone synthesizer. It was called MS404.
Yeah.
It's because the 404 was missing in the row of the 101 and 303 and 808.
Okay.
And MS was because MS20 and 404 was the missing number from the Roland devices, so I called it MS404. MS was the abbreviation for MIDI Synth 404. And this was in 1992, I think. And I had really a big success with the MS404. I think our starting quantity was 20 or 30 units. And we sent it to some magazines, and after the reports were published, I think we had 300 or 400 orders, but had only 20 or 30 units. So it was extremely successful, and I think this was the beginning of the analog area of our company.
So how did you scale? I mean, there must have been a bit where you were, in the back room almost with the workbench. And then now, you have to build, suddenly you get 400 orders.
Yeah. This was really a problem. And of course, it took 2 or 3 months until we had manufactured all these units. At this time, we did all in-house. We assembled the PC boards, we soldered the PC boards, we mounted the units and so on. It was the hell. And at this time, we were, I think, 10 or 11 people at Doepfer to handle all this.
Right.
Yeah. And as the MS4 had such a big success, I decided, hey, do what you always wanted to do, make a modular system. And so the very first modules of the A100 are nothing but the VCO of the MS404, the VCF and so on. So I did nothing but pick out the circuits of the MS404 and modify it so that they are modules. And at the Musik Messe 1996, I think, I showed the very first prototype of the A100 with the basic modules only VCO, VCF, VCA, ADSR, LFO, and so on. And in the front of the booth stood all the master keyboards.
Right.
Built into a real piano. We took a piano and replaced the keyboard by one of our master keyboards. And in the behind edge of the booth, I stood with my small A100 system. And it was so funny because all people said, nobody's interested in a modular system. Who would buy a modular system? That's not necessary. There are so many fantastic digital synths available. So I said, no, I want it for my own. And if nobody will buy it, it's fine. I want it for my own. Yeah?
Excellent.
And at the booth, nobody was interested in master keyboards.
They all wanted them.
There was so totally crowded around the A100 system. And so I said, I think
you're onto something.
Was not a bad idea.
So then, obviously you were making more and more modules.
Yeah.
Now, do they come from users, or do you kind of imagine, I will make this, or how does that work?
At the beginning, I did a lot of modules which I designed many years ago. For example, the voltage control phaser. I built it many years ago. Or I had a lot of other modules like dividers, audio dividers, and wave shapers, and so on. All I had to do is to move the old designs into a computer design, because at the early days you had to do the PC boards manually.
Yeah.
So I had all the schematics, and I had to convert it into the computer world. And I think that the first 20 or 30 modules were designed that way. And then came suggestions from customers. We also had a very good Yahoo group, A100 Yahoo group, where a lot of fantastic ideas came, like random sources, BBD modules, and special sequencer controllers, and so on. I think 20 or 30 modules or even more are based on ideas from this Yahoo group and of other customers. We also know
community is very important with modular stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about Eurorack. Now, where does that come from? Was that something that you kind of decided, or?
Eurorack was not designed by me. Some people say Doepfer has invited Eurorack. No, in Germany, Eurorack was a standard. During my studies of physics, we had a lot of measurement equipment which was built in what is now called Eurorack. At this time, it was Deutsche Industrienorm. It was kind of an industry standard in Germany. And as I know it from my physics studies, I simply took the same front panel size and housings.
But I think in terms of synthesis, you were the first to use those, that particular size, and it really... Why is it that size has just made people go, yes, because now everybody's making Eurorack modules?
Yeah, I think because you have a very good relation between the features and the price. Yeah, it's not that cheap as the larger systems, and but I changed a little bit the standard from the electrical point of view. I totally kept the mechanical standards, like the size of the front panels and the position of the mounting holes and things like that. But the industry standard also had electrical specifications.
Right.
When I did not take these specifications.
No, because you introduced busing, didn't you?
Yeah. I introduced these buses and the 16-pin ribbon cables connected. So because the original standard was too expensive, the original standard had a fixed depth, and each PC board had to have this depth. and a very expensive 64-pin connector.
Like edge connectors,
It was too expensive, so I said we have to keep the price as low as possible, and so I changed the electrical standard to the Eurorack standard.
So, I mean, you've got almost a module for almost every possible conceivable concept. Are there still things that you go, one day I will make this? You know, do you still have designs and ideas for synthesis that you still want to make?
Yes. We wanted to do some DSP designs, but to speak the truth, there are so many new companies on the market who already realized that we said, oh no, let's go back to what we know more about, like a redesign of the Schaltwerk with a much smaller size, or other things where we have sufficient knowledge. I think it does not make sense to try to do new things where you do know enough. So it's better to use the knowledge you have and to build modules from your knowledge.
Right.
But I think it's fine that there are so many new companies who do all these strange and a lot of digital things.
There's some real innovation happening in the whole modular thing. It must be very great for you to see. Now, I told you all along, so now it's huge.
It really makes me proud. Yeah, it really makes me proud, of course. Yeah. And if you would have told me this in 1960, shows the first I had no idea until more than 15 years ago. Incredible.
Right. Thank you very much, Dieter.
Thank you. Bye-bye.